comes to Netflix's anime series Devil May Cry, I'm going to be honest and say I found it to be a cool adaptation of the game series for quite a few reasons. Firstly, I just love the animation. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very eye-catching for the majority of the show. Really enjoyed the style we get, but also not only that, I found it to be very haunting when it came to the depictions of the demons, as for me personally, the majority of them were very hard to look at due to the disturbed and animated nature of them. I really enjoyed the comedy we get in this show. It reminded me very much of the games, especially with Dante and his very funny quips. Not only was he great in this show for the comedic part, but also the character Enzo, a very somewhat honest but corrupt character who offers jobs to Dante. He was also hysterical. Another thing I really enjoyed was the fact they gave quite a lot of background to a lot of the characters in this show, specifically Lady and Dante, and I also enjoyed they gave a basic understanding of the mythos within the franchise, so new fans could understand the game franchise as a whole, even if it's not exactly canon to what is in the game franchise. There's quite a few changes here and there, but I think a lot of them can be understood. When it comes to the violence, I would definitely say it's a key figure in this show, and boy did they deliver. Whilst on the one hand there's a few instances of just some standard violence, majority of the time it's quite dark and horrific imagery placed in as well, and it's definitely great to see. They definitely pushed a lot of boundaries and held nothing back. Now the soundtrack in this show was something I initially worried about, but in actuality it's quite a hooking nature for the show. Even the opening credits song I was worried about, but when hearing it multiple times, it actually really works with the show, and I thought it was quite a great addition. Another thing I really enjoyed was there's a metaphor when it came to the demon refugees, and I thought it was a great metaphor for how refugees are treated in war situations. A great example is in episode 5, I believe, where we see Lady ordering her soldiers to move the demon refugees out of this particular building to safety, showing she has a heart and can tell the difference between refugees, demons, and demons who had actually wanted to take over Earth. This is not the same mindset for the Vice President, who sees them all as the same and are worth eradicating. He orders the extermination of every single demon, no matter what they are. This angers a particular demon when he sees this being ordered and actually acted out. So much so, he goes to DEFCON 1 and blows up an entire building that he is in, not only killing himself but everyone around. And I thought it was a great metaphor for showing that when we as a country go in and kill other citizens and other people, we are creating the new terrorists. We are radicalizing them. By showing them no humanity, we are allowing them to be radicalized by the extremists. This is very evident in episode 6, as you see later. This may be me reaching, but I really enjoyed seeing them referencing fight scenes from the original games, with one in particular where they mirror a fight scene from the third game. I believe it is the opening cutscene. And then lastly, I really enjoy the Easter eggs to other Capcom games we get in this series, whether it being a piece of dialogue about Resident Evil and Raccoon City, or referencing other games like Mega Man, other type of titles, through imagery in the background. I thought that's really quite cool of them to add in. Now, when it comes to the last episode, I'll be honest and say I found it to be quite entertaining. Seeing Dante versus quite a big boss type of thing, something you'd get in the last level of a game. I thought it was quite cool to see. And then after that it's been dealt with, we see the US Army going to war with hell, firing rockets, blowing up anyone in the vicinity, whether they are refugee or actual threat. And then we are seeing them treat the remaining surviving refugees as POWs, prisoners of war. I really enjoyed the end credit scene where we see Virgil finally show up. Yes, it's sad to say he only has a small scene, but it's better than nothing, and it's cool to see him in the end credits scene. My one critique, I would say, of the ending is the fact that Dante didn't put up much of a fight when it came to the army. He, yes, did get shot by one of Lady's special bullets, but we've seen him put up a fight before. Why is it now he decides to surrender? Now, when it comes to critiques as a whole of the show, I do have a few. My first one is towards the way they present the show, as I was disappointed to see that Dante, who I thought was going to be the main star of the show, gets such little screen time, and in a sense, this show is more about Lady than anything else. Now, I have no issue with that whatsoever, but I wish they advertised that a bit more, as I was really disappointed that in the first 4 or 5 episodes we get barely any screen time with Dante as a character. He's always being overshadowed by Lady. My second critique is the plot itself doesn't make sense, as .com are essentially the whole reason for the entire events of the show by going after Dante, because he's been wearing the amulet, which yes, he has been protecting for years, but once they attack Dante and steal the amulet off of him, they are instantly having it stolen by demons, and then the near end of the world is upon them. And they refuse to even ask Dante to help them. He is doing it on his own fruition, and because of that, he saves the world. And what is their thanks to him? By freezing him and keeping him captive. It just boggles the mind, personally, but I bet they have a bigger plan in store. When it comes to my overall opinion, I will say it was a very entertaining show. I can understand a lot of people being annoyed that it's not very canon to the games, and I can agree on that, but at the same time they gave a lot of background to characters like Lady, for example, who, if I'm being honest, they don't touch upon much in the games. This series really fleshed out her character. Not only that, but I love the animation style, and I really enjoyed the violence that we get throughout. It's very stupendous, but in a great way. Is it good? I'm going to be honest and say it's very good. Rating wise, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Would I rewatch it? No. But after watching this, I really want to go back and play the original games and watch the original anime. So that says something about it. When it comes to recommendations, if you're like me and you enjoyed watching this world and somewhat being in it, I would definitely say watch the original anime for 2 reasons. Firstly, you get to see how they adapted it back then and see what's changed and if there's any restrictions or if they went a bit darker than this one, but also because it's attached to the game, so it's more attached to the original source material than the Netflix version is. My other recommendations is the games, of course, not only just the original ones, but DMC, as whilst yes, it is a remake and they changed the look of the character, I believe that is all they changed, but also it is a parallel universe, so you can enjoy it for what it is. Now, if you're like me and you enjoyed this and you want to see other Capcom games get this somewhat style, Resident Evil is definitely a franchise you should look at, as their animated movies and series are fantastic, really beautifully horrific, and just great attention to detail. Whilst I would say they're more on the horror side of things compared to this, I'd say this DMC show is more funny and a bit thriller-esque than horror. I would say the Resident Evil ones take itself serious and is more violent and disturbing. And I can't necessarily recommend one in particular. I think all of them are really good. Now, if you just want to see Netflix anime and you want to see them attach themselves to other franchises, Terminator Zero is another great watch. Whilst it's somewhat playing with the source material, it's set far away, so it's not using any characters from the original source material, but it's still canon to an extent. And the way they play with that story is so hooking, and they take a different approach to it, which I really appreciate. They give it a fresh look, which I think Terminator has been struggling with for quite some time. Now, if we're just talking about adaptations or adaptions of video games, look no further than Last of Us, which I think the first series alone was fantastic and really changed the way we look at video game adaptions. But even the first episode of season 2, you can see they're doing changes, but at the same time, it's sticking to the source material, but developing on top of it, which is fantastic and I can't wait to see more. And then lastly is Fallout, another fantastic adaptation of the source material, really showing attention to detail with the characters and the look of the world they're in. Honestly, it's fantastic and I can't wait to see more of it. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for Netflix's anime series of Devil May Cry. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, thank you and have a nice day.